We knew Merle as Mose. I only ever heard Dad referred to him as Mose.
My name is spelled M-E-R-L-E, same as his, but on the end of mine is an N-E, so I'm Merle-line, and his is Merle.
A lot of the war was actually fought in the heart of the mothers who lost their sons and who sent their sons off to war.
I guess it was 1943 when Merle came home on a furlough. I remember he picked me up and threw me up in the air, and that's the only memory I have.
Sure are a lot of things I can take pictures of over here that will be nice to show when I get home. I know the people back there can not even start to realize what things are like over here. I'm surely thankful that I am an American.
Japan took over the Burma Road, and it was like, well, how do we get supplies into Chiang Kai-shek and his army in China? So they came up with this route from India over the part of the Himalayas into China, and they called it the hump.
The Chinese Americans, including myself, grew up in China hearing stories about the flying tigers and the hump route.
So there were like 600 or 700 planes that went down over the hump.
Over 2,000 men are still listed as MIA.
But there were 10 that were on the plane.
My grandpa was standing on the porch. You had that picture. When they got a little bit closer where they could speak to him, my grandma said, "Which one is it?" And he told her that it was the younger.
My dad talked about him all the time.
My grandmother would never admit he was missing.
What had happened to Mose, and had Mose survived the crash?
She couldn't give up hope, so there was really no, funeral, no closure for her.
She cried a lot. Every day she'd cry, and after a while she said, "I've got to stop crying because people won't want to be around me."
This is the certificate that the Pickup family received signed by President Truman after Mose was declared dead.
I had heard that the U.S. government was still trying to find a particular B-24. I reached the wreck and identified it on 7 December 2010. I reached it on Pearl Harbor Day.
I said, there's no better day that I could write to you than on a Memorial Day. I want to help.
Those remains were brought down off the mountain, and they transferred those remains back to the DNA lab, I believe, at Pearl Harbor.
They came and they took my blood.
Then they had to do the analysis. They took DNA out of his teeth. They looked at mitochondrial DNA. They looked at X chromosome, Y chromosome DNA. They compared them to his brother Doug. They compared him to Merlene.
And that's when Corporal Pickup was identified.
I said, "Are we to understand that the skull in those pictures is Merle's?" And he said, "Yes." He goes, "That is Merle."
The report that we received from the Army, it was prepared just for our family. It also includes DNA materials and the efforts that the Army went to prove that these were Moses' remains.
Just really proved that he had been found.
For now, a 5th generation that will be there and see this ceremony, and they will never forget.
I've been a little bit touched by the words that the Army used in their report, that he's accounted for.
He was there, that he gave his life, that so many other people did, that this really happened.
Well, families never give up, not with each other. We support each other, we love each other.
Seeing the photos of his remains was just very powerful.
I'm part of a family who would make the effort that's been made to bring him home where he belongs, where the marker has been for years.
He's the only one whose remains have been identified. There's got to be more remains there. His are the only ones.